Hello everybody. In today's video, we are going to talk about the third pillar of object-oriented programming, that is polymorphism. So, what exactly is polymorphism? Let us see. So, the word poly means many and morph means form. So, polymorph or polymorphism means something which takes many forms, multiple forms. So it is a feature that allows a particular interface to be used for a general class of action. Now, what does this mean? Suppose I want to have a very clean interface and I want to tell the user that if I want to add something, I want to add two integers, or I want to add two double, or I want to add, say, two strings. By adding two strings, I mean concatenating the strings. So I'm going to use the same method name called add. And then if I give two integers to it, then it is going to add the two integers. If I'm going to give two strings to it, then it is going to give the concatenation of the strings and so on. So my interface is the same, but the action is different based on whatever I'm giving to that interface. So this is what we actually mean by polymorphism. It's a feature that allows one interface. So our interface is the same, that is add, and it is used for a different class of action, for different types of action. So in short, one interface, multiple methods. So one interface is only one, but methods are different. And we have already seen one type of polymorphism, which is compile time polymorphism. So compile time polymorphism we have already seen in the form of method overloading. So this example that I gave you, method overloading of adding either two integers or two double or two strings or even two objects, okay, this can be implemented through our concept of method overloading. So inside a particular class, I may have multiple methods having the same name but different number and type of arguments. And based on this, based on the type of argument that is given, the different methods will get executed. And this is known as your compile time polymorphism. Why compile time? Because let's say I have a method, say int add, okay, so int a, int b, okay, so some implementation is there. Similarly, I have string add, this is an overloaded method, string a, string b, so there is an implementation for it. Now, when I call add with say 2 and 5, then in the statement where I'm calling this, when the compiler gets this statement, it knows that the first argument is an integer, second argument is an integer. So it can relate this function call or method call to this method implementation. Similarly, when I say add, say ABC, comma, XYZ, it knows, the compiler knows that this method call is related to this particular method. So it knows which method to call at the time of compilation itself, during compilation itself. So this is known as compile time polymorphism, and it is implemented through your method overloading. Now, the other part which is your runtime polymorphism, or which you do not do this, the compiler doesn't know at compile time what is to be done, which method is to be called. This is known as your compile time polymorphism, or your runtime polymorphism, or it is also known as dynamic method dispatch. So this is what we are going to see today. So dynamic method dispatch, this is implemented in something which we have already discussed, this method method overriding. This is implemented through method overriding. So compile time polymorphism is useful, but dynamic or runtime polymorphism is very much more useful because you will see, as we will see in a later part, this cannot be resolved. This resolving between a method call and a method implementation, this is done at runtime. This is done at runtime, and this is more valid when we talk about an inheritance hierarchy. When we talk about an inheritance hierarchy, this is where this will be very much useful. So let's see some important points before we actually go to polymorphism. So when we define a class, actually what we're doing is we are defining a type, right? We are defining a type. Now, a type may be a subtype, which is defined by a subclass, or it may be a supertype, which is defined by a superclass. So if I have a shape class and then I inherit from it, I create a subclass called say square, then square is my subtype and shape is my supertype. So these are basically types defined by the user. So now again, this is a basic concept. When you declare a variable, it has to be declared with a type, which is known as a declared type. So when I write, say, int a is equal to 5, is assigned 5, then a is the variable and int is its declared type. Okay. Then I may also have a variable which has a reference type by holding a reference to another object. Okay. So this is what I mean by a reference type. Suppose I write object. This is the object class. O is new circle. Okay. So new circle here. This creates a circle object. Okay. There is no name attached to it. But then there is this O. There is this O which is of type object. Okay. But it is referring to an object of type circle. So this object type is the reference type. So a variable can also have a reference type by holding a reference to another object. So O is the declared type. So for O, the declared type is object, whereas the reference type is circle. Remember, the object class is the class which is the superclass of every object that you create in Java. Okay, so it has got two types. Now O has got two types. One is declared type is object and its reference type is circle. So this is the point which we are going to exploit, and then we will see how we can use this for implementing our polymorphism. So some more points. Now, a subclass is a specialization of the superclass. This we all know. A subclass is a specialization of the superclass. That is, every instance of a subclass is also an instance of its superclass. That's why it's called a relationship. Every circle is a shape. Every square is a shape. But the reverse is not true. Every shape is not a circle. It can be a square, it can be a triangle, and so on. So every instance of a superclass is not an instance of a subclass. Okay. So let me just repeat. Every instance of a subclass is an instance of its superclass, of a superclass is not an instance of a subclass. Okay, the same example that I have mentioned here. So circle is a shape, but every shape is not a circle. So here, in this particular program, let us look at a demonstration of your dynamic method dispatch. So you can see in this program, we have a class called polymorphism demo. There is a main function, and it is calling a method called sum method, and then it is giving a, it's creating an object here. So new full time is creating an object of type full time. Okay, we'll see the hierarchy. Then again we are calling sum method. Now we are giving an object part time. So new part time is, this is an object of class part time. Similarly, teaching, non-teaching, employee, and object. So the method is the same, called sum method, but we are giving different types of objects to this method. So what is the definition of this method? What is the implementation of this method? It's here. So here I have plus sum method, void, public static void. So it's a static method, sum method, and the argument that it takes is, the argument that it is taking is of type object. Okay, so I have X here in the method is of type, declared type is object. Okay, now this class ends here. Okay, now I have the class called employee. I have the class employee. So in the employee class, I have just overridden the toString method. Remember, the toString method belongs to the object class, and here in the employee class, we have overridden the toString method, and it is returning the string employee. Very simple, that's what it's doing. Similarly, for the other classes also, you can see we are in the teaching class, it extends from employee, non-teaching extends employee, full-time extends employee, part-time extends employee. So all these are subclasses of employee. So I have here object at the top. Then I have employee here. Okay. Then under employee, I have teaching. Okay. Then non-teaching, then full-time, then part-time. So this is our hierarchy. So you can see teaching object is an employee, non-teaching is an employee, full-time is an employee, part-time is an employee. An employee is an object. Okay. So in all these different classes, every class is overriding the toString method. So the toString method, just to recap, it whenever you're trying to print an object as a string using say %s with printf, or you're trying to print it as a string, then the toString method gets executed. So the toString method is overridden in all the classes. So there is a toString method in teaching, in non-teaching, in full-time, in part-time, in employee, and of course it is there in object. Okay. So now this is the output. I'll just come to this in a while. So coming back to our method here, sum method, you can see it is taking this object X. And what we are passing here? We are passing an object of full-time, an object of new part-time, then teaching, non-teaching, employee, and object. So object, employee, teaching, non-teaching, full-time, part-time. Okay. And in the method sum method, what we're doing, we're trying to print that object. object X. X. So here X is, this is X. Its declared type is this. So in the first call of this method, in the first method call, what is happening is that we are sending a full-time object. We're sending a full-time object. So X, it is like writing object X equal to new full-time. Is new full-time. That's the same thing which is happening here. So for X, for the first function call, for this, X is its declared type is object, its reference type is full-time. So when it prints, it will be the toString method of full-time, okay, which gets executed. So what will it print? In full-time, it prints full-time. So the first output would be full-time. Similarly, second method call is we are sending an object of type part-time. So it is like writing. You can think of it as something like this: object X is new part-time. So again, now X, its declared type is object, its reference type is part-time. So when this gets executed, when it tries to print, okay, then part-time, the method, toString method of part-time gets executed. The same goes on for this. So output should be, first it will print full-time, then part-time, then teaching, then non-teaching, then print employee, and then now here we are giving, in the last method call, we are passing object. So it is like writing object X is equal to new object. So the reference type as well as the declared type of X is the same. So the toString method of object class now gets executed. So you can see this is the output. So first full-time, then part-time, then teaching, non-teaching, employee, and then this is the last one that you can see is the object method, toString method of the object class which gets executed. So this is your this is about your polymorphism, or this is known as your dynamic method dispatch. Dynamic method dispatch. Now, what is the advantage of this? One advantage I said that it's the one interface, multiple implementations or multiple functions. So here you see, every time we're trying to print an object, okay, if I have to write different methods for each of this, then I have to write that many number of your statements here. So it would have been with, excuse me, yeah. So it would have been quite difficult for me to write so many of these statements out here. I'd require many multiple number of methods for printing. Now here it looks the interface is the same. I'm just using the toString method. I'm writing one statement, and then it is printing. It is doing different things for different objects. So if it is an employee, it is printing employee. If it is a full-time, it is printing full-time. If it is part-time, it is printing part-time, and so on. Now this is a very trivial example, but think of what you can do with this. All right, you can have different implementation. You don't have to bother about what is the interface. So the interface is the same, remains the same. You're calling in the same way, but the implementation or the execution becomes different. So This is our dynamic or runtime polymorphism, which is implemented through your method overriding. And this is also known as your dynamic method dispatch. Now, when we are talking about binding a method implementation, we have to, we're talking about polymorphism, we have to also understand about binding of a method implementation. Binding basically means how do you associate a method call to the method implementation. Okay, so in this example, okay, this was nothing but a, this was this was nothing but a method call, the method call to toString. Now, which toString will be executed? You cannot know at compile time, because you are sending only at runtime. You will know what value X will take. It may be an object of type full time or part time or teaching and so on. So here we have no way of knowing at compile time which object will be, which of the toString method will get executed. So this association, this is known as your binding of a method. So normally our implementation is something like this. So suppose C1 is the lowest class in the hierarchy. This is the lowest class in the hierarchy, and so on up to Cn. Cn is always the object class. So if O is an instance of class C1, so O here is an instance of class C1. So O is also an instance of class C2, because remember C1 is a C2, C2 is a C3, and so on up to Cn. So O is also a type of C2, C3 up to C1. So O is also an object of type object class. So when O invokes the method n, say I write O.m, O invokes the method of type n, then the Java virtual machine will search for an implementation of n starting from C1. Okay, so first it will look at C1, then if it does not find it here, then it will look at C2, then it will look at C3, then it will look at C4, and so on. Okay, so this is the order in which you find the implementation for a method in case of dynamic method dispatch. Then one more before we end the class on polymorphism. Let us also talk about casting. Now, casting operator you must have seen with your regular integer and double and other data types, regular data types. Now, this casting also works with objects. Okay, so if you look at this particular example, so here object O new student. This is basically what we had done in the previous statement. So object O is new, say full time. Okay, I can write something like this also. Now this is correct. This statement is correct. Why? Because what is happening is the object of this is cast into an object of type O. So instance of student or instance of full time is automatically an instance of the object class, because remember there is a hierarchy. So this is automatic or implicit casting. This is implicit casting. You don't have to use an casting operator. And this is also known as upcasting. Okay, remember supertype and subtype. This is subtype, this is supertype. So subtype is smaller than supertype. By smaller, I don't mean in size, but I mean in hierarchy. So every subtype is a supertype. So this is from a subtype you are going to a higher type. So this is known as upcasting. However, you may write, if you try to write something like this, student B is equal to say O is a type object, or I try to write something like this, student B is new object. Okay, if I try to write this, then I'll get an error. Because why? Because it is not the same in the reverse order. Supertype is not a subtype. So object is not always a, or say shape is not always a circle, or it's not always a square. Okay, so I cannot write in this manner because the instance of an object class is not always an instance of the student class. So here we need explicit casting. If you want to write something like this, then you need to do a explicit casting. And how do you do that? This is known as downcasting, and we use the casting. The casting operator is the same with parenthesis. So student, say B, is O is of type object. So I explicitly cast it into a student object. So I give the type here. Okay. So this is from a superclass. I'm converting it into a subclass. Now this is known as downcasting, and you have to be very careful with this because it may give you some errors in certain situations. Okay. So if the superclass object is not an instance of the subclass to which we are trying to cast, then the class cast exception occurs. So you get an error known as the class cast exception. So when will you get this? If the superclass object is not an instance of the subclass to which we are trying to cast. Okay. So in that case, you will get a mistake, an exception like this. Exceptions we will discuss in a later video. So if I want to, before I do any casting, I would like to know if an object is an instance of a given class. So I take the object. So I have an object name here. I use the instance of operator. So this is a particular operator which returns me true or false. So, and I give the class name here. So if I write, say, O instance of student. So if this returns true, then only I can do that the casting that we did here. Okay, this would be possible only if O is an instance of type student. Okay, not otherwise. So this is your explicit casting. So here I have an example. I have O is an object type, and I'm assigning it to an object of type part-time. Okay, so it is when I say print O, it will print part-time for me because this is implicit casting. But when I try to print it like this, part-time B is equal to O. So O is not of type B. So it will give me when I try to do this, then it will give me a typecast exception. However, I can do a explicit casting. I can do an explicit casting out here. So when I do an explicit casting, I have done an explicit casting out here. So now when I print B, it is possible. Okay, it is okay because O its reference type is part-time. Okay, so O actually, this is the object part-time. This is the part-time object. This is the part-time object. O is the O's declared type is object, and its reference type is, it is referring to a object of type part-time. So when I write this statement, it is valid. But if it was like this, object O is the new full-time, okay, and then I try to do this casting, explicit casting. Even though I try to do an explicit casting to part-time, this would give me an error because it is not possible. It is not possible. But full-time is something different, part-time is something different. So care is to be taken that O is an instance of part-time. So this is about your implicit and explicit casting in case of Java with classes and objects in an inheritance hierarchy. So what we have seen today in this video is we have discussed about polymorphism, and we talked about compile time polymorphism, which is implemented through method overloading, and we also talked about runtime polymorphism, which is through our uh, uh, which is implemented through method overriding. And we saw how polymorphism takes place. And we have also discussed about uh, casting, the casting operator as applies to objects in an inheritance hierarchy. So in the next video, we will talk about something more about polymorphism.